Broadcast. Okay, we are live. Okay, so this is Becky. My group is Speak Up. I do support group meetings, and we were scheduled to have a meeting with John Vennitti. When was that? 2 months ago?
Yeah, I think so.
But I came down with COVID, and I had to cancel, and one thing after another. But I still wanted to do this little interview with you because I don't really know you. I know you by calling you, and that's pretty much. So let's start off by telling me about you and telling me about your background.
Okay, so I've been here at Portage County Board of DD for the last 12 plus years. Prior to that, I was in Mahoning County. I was an SSA there. Then prior to that, I was in mental health. I worked in mental health services in Trumbull County, so I've been in 3 different counties. And I did that for over 13 years. So I was an SSA here when I originally started. I think in 2014 became an SSA supervisor, and then in 2018, I believe, I became an SSA director, and then a year later I became the superintendent, interim, and then official, and actually April of 2020. So I'm trying to think. Maybe it was in 2018 I was the SSA director, but I lose track of that. But I've been here over 12 years.
So, do you live in the county, or do you?
I actually live in Mahoning County.
Mahoning County.
Yeah, Mahoning County superintendent lives in Portage County, and Portage County superintendent lives in Mahoning County.
And Mahoning County, that's towards Canfield, that area?
Yeah,
Okay.
so Canfield.
That's what I thought.
actually
Canfield
live
area.
in North Lima, which is next to Canfield.
So next to the Canfield Fair.
Yeah, not too far. I'm probably about 15 minutes away from there.
Okay, I'm trying to turn it on my screen so I can actually watch you on my screen, but it's not working.
It's not working.
It happens. I
okay.
see you here.
I'll trust you on that. I know, as I told you, Becky, I know nothing about
I am
Facebook
not
or
very
Facebook
computer
Live.
literate, so I'm hoping to get signed in here because people will ask hopefully questions. If I go
Right.
here, let's see.
Do you have anybody signed in?
I do have a couple people sign in. My friend from Zanesville, like Karen, the one I was talking to.
You told me about Karen.
Hopefully Karen will, hopefully Xander will be signing in too. Nikki might be signed in too.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. Okay, so anything I ask you, don't take it as offense to my SSA because you know my SSA and I get along great.
You have a great relationship.
We do,
Yeah,
and
he's great, right.
along with Michelle, I have a great relationship with her. I can call them up and say, hey, did you know this?
Good.
And I do that quite a bit.
Right, and we want you to have great relationships with the people.
Yeah, so anything I say that says, oh, you don't like your SSA? It's like, no, I do love my SSA.
Good.
So I do want to say, okay, can you tell me what the board is? What is the board of DD and how does it work and how do you get on the board?
Oh, so how do you get on the board? Okay, so they're made up of 7 members, the board members. 2 are elected by the probate courts, so Judge Smith currently, and 5 are elected by the county commissioners. And so they can do 3 terms, which is a total of 12 years, so 4 years for 3 terms. After that, they have to get off the board for 2 years before they could come back.
Do you have a lot of people that come back?
Not since I've been here. Nobody has come back, but it could happen, but not since I've been here. So the way it works as far as to be a member is when a spot is open, you have to apply to that spot. So if there's a spot open at where the county commissioners elect, you have to apply to the county commissioners. If there's a spot open for the probate judge, then you have to do that. But really, we work with the probate courts and with the county commissioners. So, like, if somebody wanted to be a member, you probably you would reach out to me and tell me when that spot was open. Then I would.
How would we know a spot is open?
Yeah, I mean, you would have to either kind of pay attention to our board members or just reach out and I can let you know. So the way, like, we will have a spot open
For a parent of a minor, correct?
No, actually.
You got that one filled?
Yeah, we do and don't. We have that one filled, but now their child is becoming an adult.
Right, we talked about that.
Correct.
So will she slide into the adult role?
So those are recommendations.
Okay.
You don't have to have that, but you
don't have to have a.
No.
Oh, I thought you had to have a
No.
parent of a minor and a parent of an adult.
No.
So you don't have to.
You don't actually have to. It's encouraged. It's recommended, and if all possibility, you should. But so the kids, when they're parents, they age out and become adults.
Correct.
So yes, ideally, we would like to eventually have somebody that has a minor child again, because right now I mean, they still do. We still have one that she's about to graduate.
Actually, so she's almost. So, do you consider a minor on the board age 22 and younger, or do you
Right.
consider 18 and younger?
We consider
The 22 and younger because they can stay in school.
Because they're still in
Through
school.
the IDEA Act.
Yeah, so basically we consider like if they're in school, essentially, as to how that goes. So we do have a spot opening, I think at the end of 2024, Mr. Moran will have done his 3 terms, his 12 years, so he wouldn't be able to come back for 2 years. Now, the one thing that's interesting, and I'm going to a meeting in Columbus this weekend. We have our annual OACB conference, our winter conference, and at the delegate assembly, one of the proposals, and again, it's a recommendation, it's not that you have to do it, is to have a person on each county board that has a developmental disability.
Oh,
So that
as an
might,
actual board member. So
yeah, so that might be I think
So
we are
they're
interested
actually
in,
living the life of a disabled person. So you would get their input.
so they would be one of our 7 board members. Now, obviously, we would have to have the probate judge. We would have to have the county commissioner, who's ever going to appoint them, agree to that.
Mm-hmm.
But we are definitely seriously considering seeing if there's anybody that's interested that could do that. You also want to have somebody
Interesting, because I know somebody down in southern Ohio
Sure.
that would be interested. I'm sure.
Well, they have to live to be a Portage
right,
County board
right.
member,
That's
you have
was my next
yeah,
question.
You have to live
But
in
if
that
all
county.
the boards are doing this,
Yes, correct.
that would be something. Because she's a big advocate. I went to Columbus with her. She's disabled. She's
What county?
I think she's Hamilton.
Okay.
I'm
so
not sure.
towards the Cincinnati
I think
area.
she's Cincinnati. I want to say she's Hamilton. So I will message her and I will make sure she watches this.
Well, again, it's a recommendation.
Right, it's a
It
recommendation.
doesn't say that you have to. It's just kind of encouraging people. It hasn't even officially went to vote.
Okay.
But that's what I assume will happen.
Okay.
After our meeting this on Wednesday night. It's Wednesday night.
How long does something like that take to be implemented?
Well,
Would it be instantly, pretty much?
It's up to the county boards
Okay.
and the commissioners and or the probate judge to implement.
It's not going to be something that has to be signed off on by CMS.
No, the hope is no. It has
Okay.
nothing to do with CMS.
Okay.
The hope is by
Because they take forever.
yeah. The hope is by 2027 that all county boards will have somebody with a disability on it. That's the hope. Doesn't mean it will happen, but
Right.
that's the hope. So in our case, we have some openings coming up in I think 2024, 2025.
What would be your vetting system?
Well, we
you
would
know?
first. I mean, we probably would ask the SSAs to think of people that
Okay, to recommend.
recommend that would be capable, because there's a lot of responsibilities. The one, you got to show up to the meetings,
Right,
once a
right.
month, and we have ours
The third
third
Wednesday?
Wednesday of the month. But you have to show up, but you also have to be well, you don't have to, but we would love the person to be active and be able to handle those responsibilities. You obviously don't want to put somebody in that position and make them uncomfortable.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, I mean, we have looked into this in the past and talked about it. I believe the DD Council also helps with helping people to become board members. So
Okay.
I think we could, if we had some candidates that were interested, we would probably reach out to them
Okay.
as well.
Would they have to be receiving services? Would they have to be on a waiver, or they could be a non-waiver disabled person?
Sure, they would have to be receiving services.
They would have to be receiving
Yeah,
some kind of
otherwise it
service.
wouldn't. Otherwise it wouldn't
Okay.
count.
Well, I do know some disabled people that are in the county,
Oh,
and they've
yeah.
never gotten. They're not.
Right, I think they're saying somebody
That's receiving a service.
that's
So if I go up and say, "Hey, do you know about the Iowa waiver or the level 1
Yeah.
waiver?" They're going to have some inkling of what
Sure.
it is.
I mean, we've had board members that have had some physical disabilities or things of that nature in the past anyway, so it's not like we've never had a board member that's had a disability. So I think they're talking about somebody that is DD eligible for your county.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's good. So does that answer your question
Yeah.
about that? So yeah, I mean, what I did in the past is the last time we needed 2 board members, I started asking around, like, who might be interested. And I have one SSA has already told me about a parent that I believe has a child, but I have to double check, that might be interested. I mean, so yourself, there could be other people that are interested, and then it will just kind of be up to the probate courts or the county commissioner then decide.
Just to let you know, you have a bunch of SSAs from Southern Ohio watching.
Oh, hello, Southern Ohio. Okay, which county?
You know what? It doesn't say.
Doesn't say.
I believe the one I know is a provider out of Lorraine.
Okay.
You got some people from Jackson County on here. You have somebody from Muskingum County on here. The rest I don't really have memorized
That's
what
okay.
county they're
That's
from.
okay. Well,
But I
thanks for
have over 800 people in my private SSA group.
You told me you have
so
quite a large group.
it's slowly
They're
growing.
actually on to hear you ask the question.
Yes, they're here watching. I have so many hellos here. Good morning. Hi. Oh, Carroll County. Jackson County.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, see, they're listening to me. Hi, guys. Portage County. Oh, hey.
All right.
We got Portage County, yep.
From Portage,
the Rights Committee. Does the board
the
handle...
Human Rights Committee?
Yeah,
Yes.
so this was an issue last night on Facebook.
Okay.
Child's misbehaving, and I use the term child loosely. My kid is 34 years old. He's still my child, okay?
Right.
Misbehaves, I want to take away his Nintendo or whatever, which we're not allowed.
Correct.
Because that's the restriction of rights.
Correct.
Okay. But, hey, I'm paying for the internet for his computer. It's my internet. Can I cut it off? Or is that still a restriction of rights?
Well, it's something that each HRC, Human Rights Committee, you'd have to bring that to them, and then they would vote on that and make a decision based upon the rules, whether that they consider that a rights restriction or not. But yes, it's a tricky. There's some things that get into
because
the
it's like,
weeds.
I'm a mom. He's not doing his chores. I'm taking away his electronics.
Yeah, so if he was paying for it, the answer would be no, you couldn't do it. If you were paying for it, again, it would be up to that HRC to decide.
Okay. But it is something that has to be, is that part of the board's job? Does the board?
Yes,
okay.
we have to have an HRC committee. Colleen Brown currently is the HRC committee leader. Yeah,
okay.
She's in charge of it.
And how many people are on that committee?
That's a great question. I think there's 7 also on that one as well.
Okay.
And that's made up of individual with development.
So what is the
disabilities as
process
well.
for getting something? Do you have to document it for a year, or
you have?
is there a period of time?
So anytime that you are asking for a restriction, you have to have data showing why you need to do the restriction, and you have to then give that data to the SSA to give to the Human Rights Committee. So.
Okay, so take away that I'm not OSL provider, okay?
Okay.
I'm not on 24 hours. I have mommy time.
Yeah.
So now on mommy time, can I take away his computer?
You shouldn't, whether people know or not. So are you saying that on the day that somebody else is providing, or you're not getting paid for it?
Exactly. If I'm not getting paid, I'm given 4 hours a day, okay? HBC hours.
Right.
The rest of the time is national support, basically.
Right. Yeah, you're still not supposed to.
Still not supposed,
No,
still supposed to go through that human rights.
Right.
That was
correct.
my question.
Correct. Again, what can we do to enforce? We're not there at the home. We don't always know, but no, you're not. Nobody is supposed to do restrictions on people with developmental disabilities.
Well, the reason for it is because you could abuse your power, correct?
Correct. But also it could be unnecessary, right? There's, a restriction because you think it is doesn't necessarily mean that it should.
Well, see, as a mom,
Right.
my kids didn't do their chores. They lost
Yeah.
privileges.
Right.
Until they got the chores done, then they got restored.
And it's based on how you view things, of course. But as a mom now, your child is no longer a child. Your child
Right.
is 34 years old.
Exactly.
And so if you going back to when he was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all that, sure, absolutely. But at 34,
Now 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they're on a level 1 waiver. Would that still be a rights restriction?
you still have to run it through the Human
The
Rights
Human
Committee.
Rights Board. Wow.
Yeah, but again, at 34, they're no longer considered a child.
At
even
18,
if you
let's say,
consider-
let's make it
even
specific. Let's say 18.
right? But even though you as a mom may consider them a child,
Right.
that's in the eyes of the courts.
Luckily, I don't have that trouble with Eric. So, okay. So, SSA qualification. What do you have to do to become an SSA? What are your qualifications to become an SSA?
Well, if in our case here, they have to have a bachelor's degree to become an SSA.
Okay, so that's a 4-year.
4-year degree.
4-year degree. Can it be in any subject?
Yeah, it can be, and pretty much any field. Again, then each county board does it differently. Some may have certain ones that they go off of. Then you apply for the job, and then if you can qualify to be certified, which pretty much anybody with a 4-year degree can, then you can become an SSA.
Okay, let me give an example. When I worked for the Postal Service, I'm retired Postal Service.
Okay.
As long as you had a 4-year degree, it could be in knitting, it could be in anything, your 4-year degree, you could become a postal inspector. So basically it's the same thing. Your SSA could be
again,
have
it depends
any
on. I don't know about the other 87 counties, so they might have restrictions. They may say you need to have a social work degree or a psychology degree or whatever. Here we don't have those type of restrictions. Everybody that has a degree can apply, and then we can then.
And your SSAs do not have to live in county.
They do not have to live in
They can
county.
live in
And I doubt that. I don't think there's none that I know of the other counties that they have to live in county. Because again, if you drive into here to work, you can do your job. Doesn't matter what county you're actually living in.
Gotcha. Now the rules for SSAs are the same all 80 counties, correct?
Yeah, so they have SSA certification, they have SSA rules that are done by DODD, and everybody has to follow that.
Okay, let's go back to that rights question. What if it is jeopardizing the individual's health and safety? So the issue we had last night was a person was getting on the internet and making friends with people they should not be making friends with.
Right, and that's why you would go to the Human Rights Committee. If it was a health and safety issue, most likely that Human Rights Committee...
Would that process it faster than having to have a year of documentation, or would that be...
Oh yeah, if you have an issue, you can go right away. They can immediately do a quick agreement to
so like a week, 2 weeks, you could have that in place?
You can have it the same day.
The same day?
If it's quick enough moving through.
Okay, that was the issue. The
superintendent can
people
do a quick one, and then I think they have 30 days, I believe, to
revise it.
To figure it out, yeah. Yeah, health and safety is why.
Yeah, she says she's not talking to Tim, they're talking about social media, which was the question last night. My case, my son's would have been his Nintendo stuff.
Right.
The person last night was going online. They were meeting people that were saying they were celebrities.
Yeah.
And asking them for pictures.
Yeah, it's scary.
It really is. It's very scary.
Right.
I mean, you're not on Facebook.
No.
But I am a lot, and I get catfished every day.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Constantly. Will you be my friend? Yeah, and you recognize them after a while.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of bad people out
there.
There
are a lot of
bad
people.
To steal money, to exploit people, to do bad things to them, and so you have to be very careful. So, yeah, health and safety is, definitely a good reason to go to your human rights
and get it. And like you said, you could get it approved immediately. So would they just get on the phone and call each other,
they
call an emergency meeting?
They can call an emergency meeting.
So, okay, independent provider in Mercer County. At Aglaze.
Aglaze,
Shelby, Logan, and Franklin.
Oh, nice.
There you go.
Very good.
Okay, SSA's qualifications. If you don't like your SSA,
which I know you like yours. So
I do. I've actually I've had two. I've had Chrissy.
Oh, okay.
And she was great when I had her, and I think she got promoted, and that's why I ended up with Nikki after a while.
She's an SSA just as Nikki is, but she does a different type of job. So we have 3 SSAs that mainly just handle SSA only cases, which means most of their cases don't have waivers. So Chrissy handles those cases. So she has a higher case.
Okay, how do you get an SSA and not have a waiver?
Anybody that's eligible for services at any county board can have an SSA.
Okay, so what kind of services are covered that are not waiver services?
Well, the SSA services are not waiver services. Early intervention is not waiver services. The investigative agents, they investigate people that don't have waivers. So lots of things we do. Our school, you name it. Yeah, you don't have to have a waiver to be eligible for services and get services. So an SSA only caseload, like Chrissy has, I don't know, maybe 80 cases.
Wow.
And so do a couple other people, Eric and Sarah. They both have somewhere around that amount, but of those cases, they may have 1 waiver or 0 waivers or 2 waivers at the top. And so they deal a lot with the school systems and with the parents and those adults that don't have waivers or don't need waivers. So yeah, you can, as long as you're eligible, you can get an SSA if you want an SSA.
Okay.
So there's we can't even turn you down. Let's say we didn't want to give you an SSA and you want it, we have to. That's
okay. Then if you don't have a waiver, what needs would it, as I say, supply? Would it be like less money for like diapers and things, or?
Well, no, I mean, they help you find resources. They do lots of things. They help set you up. They might go to your IEP meetings if you have kids in school. They may go to a court hearing with you. They may assist when finding you respite. You know, we have a new couple, we just started a respite program this year, so families are able to go to Buckeye Residential Services second floor to go there and receive services if they have a kid that they want to go there. It's all pre-planned. And eventually starting next year, we're going to have emergency respite where you could actually even stay overnight. So your SSA
You're
links
working
you
with
to
them with
that.
Buckeye Residential, right?
Yeah. The SSA helps you fill out the application. They help you work through that. There's so
okay,
many.
I had that later on here, but your respite house that you're building or you're creating.
Yeah, it's not built. It's so we're renting.
Okay.
A home in Kent, and I just went there last week to look at it. It looks really nice. It's going to have 4 bedrooms.
Is it going to be only girls or only boys, or will it be mixed gender at the same time?
It's going to depend on the situation. There's going to be 2 kids that live there, and there'll be another 2 beds available for respite for overnight stays.
Okay. Do they have to be Portage County residents to use it?
Yeah.
Okay, because I had somebody in Summit was asking me about that.
Well, the reason it is because we're paying for it all out of the county board resources.
County funding.
Yeah, it's all county board funding. Nothing's really coming from anything else. Although we did get a grant. I should take that back. We did get a grant that we used
through the state.
Yeah, so it's called Keeping Families Together. DOD gave us $50,000 one fiscal year and $50,000 another. So we used that.
Okay, so you're using that, but that would be age 0 to 22, basically, right?
I don't think we have kids at 0.
Right, I know.
But I think we were looking 6 to 17. Mm-hmm.
What kind of respite can you not foresee something like this in the future for adults?
Well, for adults,
ICF suck. I'm sorry. I'm going to be honest. They're awful. I put my son in one for a week.
Not all ICFs suck. But again, and again, your experience doesn't necessarily mean that's how it is for others' experiences. And yes, there are ICF for respite, so that's already in place.
Yeah, I had to do that when I had surgery last year.
There also is people that usually have waivers that need that, and so they could go to another waiver provider. So it's just not the need. The reason that we do it with the reason we do it for the kids is there's nothing there outside of ICF. Rest, it's the same thing. You could do it there, but there's so many more kids.
So outside of the waivers, that you have to use informal respite care. For respite care for an adult.
Well, you could just do HBC.
That's what we're having to do for Eric when I go into surgery next week.
Right, so you could do HBC. So, it doesn't have to.
So he's going to Southern Ohio.
Is that where he's going?
Yeah, we know.
Well, no wonder you have friends from Southern Ohio here. Yeah.
Well, we actually met at a picnic, so she's wonderful. Eric's all excited, so he's excited. Whereas going into the ICF, we use Green Book out of Hartville. I'm sorry, Gentlebrook. Okay. Out of Hartville. Yes. And it was so sad leaving him in the hospital. It was basically a nursing home.
And again,
chose that.
There are different ICFs. There's different arrangements. There's different people in different homes, and it all depends on the home and everything.
Well, we chose that one simply because it was connected to his day program. He was only there for breakfast and dinner. He hated it.
But again, did he hate it because it was bad, or did he hate it because he wasn't with mom?
Can I be honest? I mean, this is, and I hate to use these terms. He hated it because the people there were low functioning.
Okay.
They were permanent residents. They were low functioning. Mm-hmm. He loved the nurses. Of course, Eric. Yeah. He likes to talk to all the nurses. But as far as making friends with the patient,
so it really wasn't the ICF. It really didn't.
It really wasn't. It was the clientele. I hate to say it.
That's okay. I mean,
but my son too.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, with the shortage, right?
I know.
Of staff, yes. In the past, you would have maybe more spaces or places to go, and now you don't have as much because of the crisis.
I didn't have a whole lot of choices. Yeah,
it doesn't sound like it was an ICF sucks. It sounds like
the facility itself was clean. The care was good. The food was crappy, from what Eric said. I want to come home and eat.
Well, so again, is it the ICF, or is it also some of that he's not home with mom? So wherever he went,
my heart was broke having to leave him. Honestly, I hated to leave him. Right. I'm actually looking forward to Danny having fun with Eric, who is the lady that's going to take her. He's going to go to her daughter's workshop while he's there.
Oh, okay.
So they're
that's
going to
nice.
have fun together. at the
And how
workshop.
long is he going to be there?
Just a week.
Just a week.
Yeah. He's going to go Sunday, and then we'll pick him
Yeah.
up the following Sunday,
Yeah.
hopefully. As long as my knee surgery goes okay.
Right. Well, and so for us, you know, we're really grateful for all our providers. And I know that there's some that struggle more than others, but they have a very difficult job, you know, as being a provider yourself. It's not easy. And there's so many factors, so many variables that go into being a provider. And now with the staffing crisis, it just
And the pay,
has really the pay and staffing crisis just made it really
Unfortunately,
difficult.
I can go to McDonald's and make more than I make as a provider now.
Yeah,
and with
I
benefits.
know.
That's the sad part.
That's tough. But again, I know for us here in Portage, as the county board, we really love our providers.
You do,
and
we
think,
get special things from you. And
but we think very highly of them, and we really know how difficult the job is. And so I hope you and all your Facebook viewers understand that part too. That it's just not an easy thing. If it was so easy, I think you'd have more people doing it. It's not.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
This person says, for your information, meaning mine. Hey, Tiffany. She's in Erie County, by the way.
Oh, Erie County. Okay.
Individual budget goes through the county boards are not waiver included. I'm not sure what she means by that. Do you?
She said
individual budget through county boards are not waiver included.
Yeah, she means that, like the money that they have. I'm assuming is what she's talking about.
I'm not sure.
The county board doesn't have anything to do with that.
Okay.
That
was a big question too on the internet. Your SSAs, are they county paid? Are they paid through the county?
Through the county
They are
board.
county employees.
They're county employees.
Okay. About 5 or 6 years ago, might have been longer, county boards had to give up workshops because they're considered a conflict of
Yeah,
interest.
it's not even been that long. Some county boards still have them. They're in the process, and some are still in the process
dispersing.
of dispersing. I think it's by 2024, maybe. And it's been so long. Ours stopped in 2018.
Okay.
You didn't have to stop right then, but you had
to phase it out.
told to phase it out.
Okay.
And
that was considered. That was because it was considered a conflict of interest. Correct.
Correct. It was a conflict of interest to be.
And this is a
SSA
question coming from
monitoring and
Tana, who is a transfer person from Indiana coming into our state. Okay. She is in Ottawa County, I want to say.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We got a lot of counties here. Represented.
I do. My goal for my group is to have one SSA from all 88 counties. That's my goal.
Oh,
so I'm
good.
trying
Very
for.
good.
So, anyways, somebody I graduated just popped out. She's down in Florida.
Nice.
Okay. So, anyways, she has a disabled son too. So coming from Indiana to Ohio,
Sure.
big difference. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And I know if
So that's one thing to remember. So
it's state by state.
Yeah, it's state by state, and so if you have a waiver in Indiana, it doesn't transfer to
Correct,
Ohio.
and she knows that.
Okay.
She knows that. She's right now. I believe she's getting paid through FSS money.
The only ones that they make, and this just came into law not too long ago. I think it was last year, maybe the year before. If you're a military family, they have some
because you
special
transfer every 4 years as a
Yeah,
military
or
generally.
sooner, right?
Yeah,
But-
I have friends that have military families.
They figure a way out that essentially that county board has to kind of accept and give them a waiver, that type of thing.
Okay,
So
because
it's-
they're only there 4 years and they probably move on. So so that being said, I know if I own a home and I rent it to somebody that's disabled, I can also not be their provider because that is also considered a conflict of interest.
Right.
That's in the ruling.
Right.
So do you foresee in the futures SSAs being a separate entity or always being paid through the county?
Oh, yeah, no, I don't foresee in the future them being a separate entity. I hope not. I think our county boards do a great job with that, and our SSAs
So does the
are terrific.
SSA technically represent the client or do they represent the board? Who should they be fighting for is the question within that.
Well, I'm not, what do you mean fighting for, I guess? I'm not-
Looking for services, should they be... Okay, so this person's interest is she feels that her SSA is more for the board than for the services her daughter needs.
So
Does that make sense?
Again, yeah, it does. I mean, the SSA is for the person, and they
Should be for the
person's needs and stuff, which is the same as the county board. So the county board wants
hard to word all that,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, that's okay. A county board wants the person's needs to be met, just
Okay.
like the individual.
But
and
if
just
it's
like
going
the
to cost the
family.
county money, Is the county concerned with the money or the needs?
They're concerned with the needs. At least, again, I can't speak, hopefully, I can't speak for 87 other counties. Does it mean that they don't look at the costs? Of course they do. Of course they do. And you have to balance that, don't get me wrong, but it's always about needs. And if the costs are high because of the needs, and you can justify it through the needs, you justify it. Sometimes what a person or a family sees as needs might be different than what an SSA or a SSA director or supervisor might see as needs.
Okay.
So that can get a little bit difficult. But then you have a process. You have due process, and you can request a hearing. You can request a time to sit down with the supervisor and the director, and then it can go to JFS if need be.
So when you do a hearing, and I've appealed
JFS
before.
does the hearings, right?
Is that out of Columbus or out
No,
of the
it
county?
would be in the county you're in.
Because it's usually on the phone.
Right. Now there might be somebody in Columbus
On the phone.
on the phone, but it's done at your local JFS.
Okay. I just want because I know I've done them and there's always been on the phone and I've lost most of mine.
Gotcha.
So,
But before, let me go back to, so if you want more questions,
ahead.
I don't think we ever answered about what do you do if the person doesn't want to.
oh yeah, I'm sorry.
So if you don't want an SSA, you would contact their either supervisor or director, depending on how the county has it set up, and then say that we're requesting a different SSA.
You just say it's not a good fit or?
Yeah, whatever the reasons are, and then they will, talk it through, and if there's a way of salvaging it, they'll probably try to salvage it. If there's a way of not, then they, then they'll probably move on. But again, that all depends on the county. Now, sometimes it can get tricky. So let's say you have a family that has behavior support strategies in it, and they have certain SSAs, or say one SSA that only handles that. There might not be anybody to switch it over to, so that can get a little more challenging. They usually probably will still try, but it's not always a simple request.
How long does a typical SSA stay working for your county?
Oh boy, I'd have to look again. Ours is really good. So,
Okay, so you don't have a high turnover.
No, we don't.
I know Chrissy started back here in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
I had her for several years, and she's still here.
Right.
And then I got Nicole, and Nicole's
she was
been
in
with me.
2009, maybe 8,
Something
9?
like that.
Something
She was
like
with
that.
me when we got rid of the TDD waiver. So
Yes, she was.
So
yeah.
right before that, because you came to my house.
Yeah.
And we discussed it. And I'm
Yes.
still not happy with it, but
Yeah, well, that was
That
not
was-
something we had any.
right. And I looked
determination.
into complaining of being grandfathered in.
Right.
Because if you were IO waiver beforehand, you could have gotten grandfathered in.
Right.
Problem is, I was never an IO waiver. I was a TD waiver,
Correct.
then went to
And then
adult family living, and then went right into the.
I know. Right.
So I couldn't file to be grandfathered in.
But our SSAs are great. We are lucky and fortunate here that they've stayed with us so long, so we don't have a high turnover. A few years back when I looked at it, and I haven't done it recently, I could, and I can let you know, but I think we're somewhere around, an average of 16, 17 years,
Wow.
somewhere in that vicinity, if I remember correctly.
Which is a sign that you either treat them very well and they like their job, or a combination.
I hope both. We try really hard to treat them well, again, because we're really grateful, because they don't have an easy job either. Just
Now
like providers don't,
they are
don't.
union, right? They're union employees.
They have a union.
They have their own union.
Yes.
Do most SSAs belong to a union throughout the state? Do you know?
I really don't know, to be honest with you. I kind of worry about us here at Portage, but I know some do and some don't. But I don't have any statistics.
I'm pro-union. I hate to say it. I was
okay.
postal
No,
worker.
it's nothing wrong
I'm
with
very
you.
pro-union.
We have great dialogue. We have great people in the SSA department. And I think they're comfortable where they can come to me with any type of question, and I think they're also comfortable with their supervisor and director to be able to go to them with any type of questions. We want to have great relationships, and if you do that, hopefully when it comes negotiations are a little bit easier because of that type of things. But yeah, no, I don't know totals of other counties. I don't really worry about that.
them, right?
What I worry about is, can we keep good people, and we've been able, and we've also been able to attract good people here too, which is encouraging.
Good.
Yeah, so we get a lot of times we get people, not always, but sometimes we get people that already have been in another county with experience because, hopefully reputation, but also the people we have here. So.
I'm reading a question here. Why are county boards not all in sync across the board?
Because there's 88 counties and 88 different ways of doing things.
And 88 counties times 7 people per board.
Yeah, there's so many variables, so many factors. There's board members are different in those counties. Obviously, the directors are different. The superintendents are different. It's really hard. But one of the good things that I think the DODD is doing right now is with this Ohio ISP that is coming.
The 40-page ISP.
Well, not necessarily the amount of the pages, but the fact that it'll be one same.
Right, I'm just
thing.
saying that's the one you're talking about.
Yes,
the one that's now 40.
I don't know how many pages.
Oh, it's
it is.
40 pages.
Yeah.
Of course.
But it'll make
not
things,
all pages apply to every person.
But right.
So.
But as you're talking about, there's such a difference from county to county on processes, on paperwork, or whatever. Now, if you and Eric go to Ottawa County, since you mentioned that,
Okay.
if you move to Ottawa County and we have this Ohio ISP in place, you won't have to start all over when you go to
Everything
Ottawa.
just transfers.
Because everything will just transfer. It'll make your life easier, Eric's life easier, but also make the SSA's life easier because they already have that in place. And then they can worry about the important things about what are the needs and what are the services Eric has.
And then does levy money come into play then?
Well, levy money always comes into pay. So county boards have to pay the waiver match. So it's close to 40% is what you pay.
Right.
And so of all the duties that county boards have, that's one they have to do. So ours is about close to 7 million, and we get close to 19, 20 million a year in revenue. But 7 of that goes directly just to pay the waiver match. And remember, the waivers pay for day program, non-medical transportation, individual employment supports, HPC, the shared living, all those types of HPC mileage. There's all the different services there. We pay that portion of it, so that's out of that levy money.
Right.
Right.
When's the last time we had a levy for it? Do you know?
We have a levy coming up next year.
Next year? Okay.
We have 2 renewals that next year will be a 5-year and a 10-year. They're both coming up at the same time.
Okay, and then
So every 10 years we have 2, and then we have 4 also continuous levies. That
And
don't
we're
come
one of
up
the
now.
luckier counties. We usually pass our levies, correct?
Yeah, and most county boards do. There's a few exceptions, and we haven't asked for new money, I think, since 2005 is the last time we asked for additional money from people from Portage County, and we don't plan on asking for additional money, hopefully anytime soon. So these are just renewals coming up in 23. It'll be a 23 for a 10-year and a 5-year, and then 2028 we'll have another renewal, and then 2033 we'll have both of them again. That's how it works. Yeah. But yes, we're very fortunate. The great people of Portage County have supported us.
I love
really
my county.
well.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of my county.
Hey, I love the county too. I know I said that I live in Mahoney,
Yeah.
But doesn't mean I don't love the county. I
Right.
certainly do.
I mean, we do a lot. We have activities all the time.
Yeah.
And I look at these other counties and they have nothing. They don't do activities like we do. I do want to do a shout out for Barb Cooley out of, she's in Pickaway County. She is their SSA liaison,
Oh,
kind of
nice.
like what we have Michelle here.
Okay.
And she just recently did a media library on taxes for her SSAs.
Nice.
And she's, sending emails all the time. Let's do this, let's do that. So she's trying to educate her, not only her SSAs, but also the providers in her county.
Very good.
So,
Very good.
yeah.
Yeah, and so Michelle is our community providers
Yes.
relations director.
Oh, yeah,
and she does
and
the
we do.
education for
I'm
the
on her board.
providers. Yeah.
I'm on the board for the DSPs.
The DSP committee?
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm on
very
that board
nice.
when I remember to go.
Yes, and she has the committee that gets ready for the awareness
In March and April, yeah. And then she also started the water aerobics. She had a hand in the water
She
aerobics.
absolutely
She had a
did.
hand in the drum fit.
Yeah, Colleen does that.
Yeah,
and
right.
She's the director, so she's over
And
Colleen.
We do movie nights. We get little gift cards for restaurants
Yep, just
and
got
little,
one here recently, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, little discounts or 10% off a meal sometimes at different places.
Yeah, she looks out. She does a great job trying to support all of you. That's her job. I mean, all of our jobs, mine and everybody else's here, are to improve lives for people with developmental disabilities and make them have fuller, happier, better lives. And so that's we get paid to do that when it's a pretty cool job to have. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see, I've done that one. Okay, somebody said, this is my question, the fairness of waivers.
Okay.
Okay, which is, really hard when you look at waivers, and
Sure.
we as providers, we as parents, we talk among ourselves, and you see people that are getting more services, and though we don't know all the factors,
Yeah,
than
correct.
somebody else. I know when Eric was first injured, I looked at him and he was a 3-person transfer. I don't know whether you remember
Wow.
those years. He was
Wow.
a 2 to 3-person transfer.
Wow, yeah.
Told he would never walk again. And
That was when you had the TDD waiver?
yeah, the TDD waiver, and then also a little bit in the Ohio family living. He didn't get out of his wheelchair till we moved up here
Okay.
into this house.
Wow.
Right after we met, then
Okay.
he started moving
That's
out.
when he started moving.
Yeah, he's really progressed.
Yeah, he certainly has.
But back then, he was not able to care for himself. But yet, I saw another friend that had a son that was able to dress himself and do everything else, and yet they were getting more hours than my son was getting hours. And it was just the unfairness of how everything is scored and done.
Yeah, so there's an assessment that's done. There's an ODDP assessment that is done on every person that has an IO waiver. That assessment determines the range, okay? But it's still based on need. So even if that assessment shows a range of, up to 20,000 a year, and another one shows, up to 130,000 a year, the SSA can, if there's a need, can go over that. They have to request that, the prior authorization to the department to do that. So again, it's based off of the information the SSA gets from that individual, family, providers, all that stuff that goes in. And I know it's confusing and it can seem that way. I don't know the factors, though.
Right, neither I agree.
That family, they were at home and able to support them, whereas another family wasn't able to. So, of course, if a family's able to offer more support than another family, the cost is going to be higher, and you're going to need more services for the family that isn't
Okay.
supported.
Well,
If
here's a sample I know for sure.
Sure. And again, I won't.
Okay,
I won't be able
I
to
know you're not
speak
going
of
to be able.
those.
I'm just
Yeah.
going to throw my gripe out
Sure,
there. I am
sure.
basically a single mom.
Sure.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I get 2,000 miles a year.
Yeah.
I have a friend who has a family. Mother and father. Sorry, I have to climb. Mother and father are both providers. They get 2,000 miles each a year for the child. And our kids are pretty much basically the same level.
Right.
And just to me, it seems like she's a single mom, one person. She only gets 2,000 miles. Here's a mother and father. They both get 2,000 miles.
Right.
That to me is.
Yeah, and it's so hard to speak on those individual circumstances without knowing. I don't. I'm not the.
Because we're into what month is this? November.
Right.
Right.
In
My
November.
span is in June.
Right.
I'm out of miles. I'm already out of miles
Right,
because
yeah.
we live in Portage County.
Right, yeah. And again, shared living's a little bit different as far as the prior auths go because of how that system's worked because it's that range by the ODP.
So once I'm completely out of miles, then I should go to my SSA and say, hey, I'm totally out of miles. What can you do for me? Is that what I do?
I mean, have you had conversations with her about
No,
it? Oh, okay.
I have not.
Yeah,
I have
obviously-
not.
Yeah, obviously that's the first thing is to have
So.
those conversations and they can see if there is anything they can do for them.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's so hard. Again, individual. I don't know the other family and
I
don't
know.
know why that.
If I said the names, you probably would know, but I'm not going to say the names.
Sure. Uh-huh.
So,
Gotcha.
because it is Portage County.
Right.
Okay, the ODDP. When do you foresee them doing changes on it?
I don't know. So years ago, so I think it was when I went to my training for that. That was 2007. So that was 15 years ago. They told us when we went to the training it was attached to some other things and it made it really difficult to change it because it was attached to other things because you'd have to change those too and they couldn't. I do think they're looking at those things, but I have not heard any sign of when or if that might
Well, the
be.
director is saying 2025.
Okay.
Which
Okay.
I could be dead by then. I hate to say it. You never know what
Yeah.
tomorrow's going to bring,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, and so you have more knowledge on that than I do because I hadn't even heard that.
they're supposedly opening the rule. Okay, so what does opening the rule mean?
So opening the rule means that they can now open it up and make changes to it. Until you open the rule, you can't then make changes, right? So you have to.
So they open it up. They look at each
they look
article.
at everything on that rule. Then they have a hearing to have people want to give their input and attendance, and then they try to then put that rule into place with CMS and everything. So yeah, so they open up the rule to look at everything. So that's a good sign. So she's saying they're opening it up in 2025.
They're opening up, and they're hoping to have a new rule by 2025.
Okay.
2025,
so
sorry.
The rules are
is what I'm
looked at
assuming.
for sure every 5 years. Sometimes they're looked at sooner, but every 5 years they have to.
Yeah,
be
and
looked
Gary
at. So
Thomas, who
maybe-
you know,
Yeah.
says that they're opening the rule.
So maybe it was done and it was looked at already in 2020. I don't know. And so
Supposedly they're
that's why.
hiring a committee to rewrite it, and I guess that ODDP came from New York, and they
Yes.
adopted it.
Yes, it
And
was.
there's a whole spiel about it.
Correct, and that's what I talked about. It was tied to other things, and it's not an easy thing to just change, and because it's tied to.
Okay,
other
now
rules.
we cannot appeal what our level is. Is that correct? Like, I can't come to you and say, hey, my son should never be a level 2. He should have been a level 3 or 4.
Right. No, but you can appeal the needs based on the needs that they need more services, but you can't appeal the level on a shared living type.
Okay, I've had at least four people I know of that have gone in, and I'm encouraging everybody online to do this. You can redo your ODDP at any time.
Correct.
I mean, if I wanted to do it weekly, I could drive my.
But there would have to be a change.
I
though.
know,
You know
I
what I
know,
mean? So
right.
you can't just say, hey, I want
There's-
to do it even though there's no changes. You have
Right.
to say there's changes. Here's some of the changes. Can we redo it?
And I highly recommend taking the course on my learning on the ODDP. So there is a course. There's
Yeah.
also a course on being an SSA, which
Yes,
is
there
very
are.
interesting.
Right.
I've not through
Early
it.
intervention. There's all kinds of courses.
And there's all kind of CEUs too, just to let you know.
Right.
But these four people, one went from a level 2 to a level 5 or 6. One went from a level 2 to a level 9.
Are these shared living, or are you just talking HBC?
Shared living.
Shared living. Uh-huh.
One went from a 2 to a 6. And I'm not sure where the other fourth person ended, but they were all able to. And my big complaint is, okay, and this was a complaint I had with Nikki. Okay, one of the questions is, does your child smear their feces? I said, yeah. I said, you should take a look at my bathroom every day. But he doesn't do it on purpose. The question doesn't say, does he do it on purpose? The question is, does he smear his feces? So by changing that and saying he doesn't do it on purpose, you're adding words into that question. And I think it's Barbara that questioned it. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know the hierarchy here. Okay, I can't never remember. You got Gary, you got Barbara, you got all these people. But from what I understand, that was one of the things. And is your child self-injurious? I got pictures of bruises all over Eric. He doesn't feel pain. So when he runs into something and he doesn't tell me, there'll be a bruise all over his arm or his head or whatever. And I take pictures. I call Nikki. I say, okay, he's done it again. You know. And she says, but he doesn't do it on purpose. Well, no, he doesn't do it on purpose. But the question doesn't say, does he do it on purpose? So when you have people coming back with you and adding words into the ODDP, and the words are not in these questions, how do you fight that? What do you do?
Yeah, you can still. I mean, you can still then ask to meet then with the supervisor, the SSA director. You can do all those type of things to try to resolve. And then if you can't, then you can then still appeal to JFS. I don't know what they would do about that, but you have the due process, so you can appeal anything.
Say hi, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. So you have due process, so you can see where that takes you.
Because that was the one issue I had with that
Yeah,
test. I was having you guys add in wording that's not actually there.
Right, and I don't. So they have a guide.
Right, correct. And
to
that's
it.
that's
so-
under my learning also.
And the guide may have some of that in there, even though it may not be in the actual wording of the ODDP. So if the guide tells you that this is what that means, then they're going off of that.
Oh, I think we just. Hey, Jan, I think that's the question you're asking. Can an assessor reword your answers on the ODDP? Oh, okay. So we had an issue. I want to say she was Lorain County. She just redid her ODDP. Very big conversation all over our groups here. She was originally level 2. She wouldn't jump to a level 9.
Okay.
Her county fought at level 9. And they wanted to take words out and rewrite words and all this stuff. The lady ended up writing Columbus, writing Nyoka. Nyoka got involved, and Nyoka also wanted to lower it down to a 6. She finally ended up. I don't know whether she ended up with an attorney or was talking about getting an attorney,
Sure.
and they finally approved a level 9. So how can a county, if I'm stuck at a level 2, I'm stuck at a level 2.
Well, I think we talked about it already. So it's based off of need, right? And things are based off of need, and the assessment is based off of need too. But you may see the assessment one way and the SSA.
But the test itself came back as a level 9. How can the county take that level 9 and then try to lower it back down to a level 5?
Oh,
When the
for shared living?
this was what happened. The ODDP came back as a level 9, and that county said, no, we won't give her any more than a level 5.
That's a good question.
Okay.
I've never heard of that.
Oh yeah, that's what happened. That was a big issue for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I've never heard of that happening. We've never done that I know of.
Okay, yeah, that was a big thing.
Yeah,
and she
never
just
heard of
that's when she wrote
lowering,
Nyoka. And this lady's very intelligent.
Yeah.
She's actually an author of several books.
I know.
That is the mom.
Yeah.
And so she wrote very, very good letters.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
took the ODDP testing, became ODP assessor, did the SSA.
Yeah, I've never heard of any county board, and again, obviously it happened. You're
It
saying
happened
I've never
just-
heard of
yeah,
a county
last
board saying that the level is 9, but we're going to
Jess,
put you
yep,
at a
that's the one.
We're going to put you at a 2. Now, you could have a level 9, say, in HBC, and not, it shows that, but for whatever reason, you don't have as much services, even though that shows a level 9, and you give them, based on need, the services that are less than that level 9. You can do that, but shared living's different.
She's shared.
So I've never heard of that happening with shared living. And obviously, if you have a level 2,
I think that it might.
if you have a level 2,
You know what? I'm thinking
it's
shared living, but I think it's a minor child also.
well, shared living isn't for minor
Okay, so
children,
let's.
so it's
Would it
HBC.
be? It's an Iowa waiver for sure. That would be an
Okay.
HBC then.
You can't be a shared living and be a minor
Okay.
child. So you have
So-
to be 18 or older to have shared
Yeah.
living.
Hey Janet, was that a minor? I'm thinking she has a minor.
So then,
Oh, Nikki's watching too. Hi, Nikki.
yeah, so that's different. So they can, they can do
It ended
based
up
on-
getting settled that the girl is now
Yeah,
9.
they
so.
could, with HBC, you could say that, the needs are covered, even though that shows the level 9 by this, and this, and may not need all 9. Again, let's say the family's natural support, providing services.
Because national support comes into play when they're under 18.
And they don't need all the services.
Oh, she says no, it is an adult.
Oh, okay.
I think she's wrong, but
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yes, if it's an adult, it's shared living then. But yeah, so, but shared living, never heard of that situation.
Tiffany wants to know who is building your building. You're not building a building for the respite care.
No, we rented a
It's
home.
rented a home.
Yeah, we rented a home. We're not building.
Yeah, Michelle answered to her for her.
Gotcha. Thanks, Michelle.
So,
Michelle, you can tell us when we need to wrap up for our meeting at 11.
are you guys doing a Zoom meeting? You, and Michelle?
Teams.
A team. Oh,
Yeah.
that team confuses me. I have a
Yeah.
team meeting Wednesday with Nikki and my SSA down.
The teams are
it's-
the teams. It's very similar to
It
Zoom,
is. It's just,
except
it's,
for
I think it's the computer program that's just giving me fits. Let's see. I'm trying to look here and see what other questions I have that I've missed on here.
sure.
So okay. Okay, so let me tell you one of the things that really irritates me.
Uh-oh.
Okay, you know what I do?
Yeah.
I send you rules all the time. I
Yeah.
say, hey, John, did you know this? And sometimes you say, hey, no, I did. Let me send it on to Medicaid or one of your departments. When I go into the dodd.ohio.gov website and I try to look up for rule,
Yeah.
it is, if you don't have the exact wording of what you're looking for,
Yeah,
it's
cumbersome.
terrible.
Yeah.
Also,
you're
if-
talking about rules in effect, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
and if you don't know,
Well, there's a ton of rules. So
here's an
it's-
example.
yeah.
Transportation rules changed February 2020. If you didn't know you needed to look for the most current rule and you just read the rule that came up, you would still be doing drug testing for driving, for the NMT and how can we get those updated? How can't...
I think Director Hawk visited, and they're working on trying to make that process smoother and easier for everybody.
Because it's really hard.
It's hard because there's so many rules, right? But yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to find a system that's a website issue too, and they have to work with their IT and their communications people to come up with what's the best thing. It's a challenge for any organization.
I'm sure
Somebody as
it would
big
be
as
nice if we had
DoD.
like a Google search and where the Google you misspelled stuff, the Google fixes what you spelled.
Yeah.
Are you looking for this?
So that's the question I would say for Director Hawk when you meet with her again
Okay.
next
In
year.
April?
In
Okay.
April, yeah.
Either-
Because I don't really have the answers to that. So you remember, so the DoD kind of monitors us.
Right.
They come and do accreditation review with us every so often, and they do that with all the other 87 county boards. So we can't tell them what to do. We could ask them and and say, hey, we've heard these concerns or these complaints, that type of thing. So when
Because there's a lot of times, like even last night, somebody came up with a rule, and I was answering them. I said, "That's not the rule anymore."
Right.
And I said, "Oh, you pulled up a 2017 rule
So how did they pull it up though?
by going into the ODDP." I'm sorry, not the ODDP, the
And it showed the old
DoD.
rule, it didn't show a current rule?
Oh yeah, it shows every rule. They're not archived in order. They're not.
Okay.
It's a nightmare to look for a rule. I don't know how many.
Yeah,
I'm one of those weird ones that I start to look at the Ohio Revised Code sometimes, even to find what I need.
Sure.
Here's a good example. So I emailed Nyoka. In case nobody on here knows who Nyoka is, she is out of Columbus. She's a compliance manager, I believe.
I'm not sure.
I believe that's her title.
But she works for the Department
But anyway,
of
she's
Developmental Disabilities,
she's
right?
like right underneath the director. She's in that room. Okay, so I needed a list. All I wanted was a list of what you needed on your documentation. And she says, it's listed in the OSL rule.
Okay.
So I went to the Ohio Shared Living Rule. It was not in the one I pulled up. And I messaged her back. I said, there's no list saying exactly what you need in your documentation. This is what I need. And so she sent me a different OSL rule in the same file. So there's two rules in there for OSL. One gives all the listing of the documentation. One does not say what you need. And
Oh, I
because
see.
of that, it makes
Did
it...
she explain that to you?
No, I didn't even ask her.
Gotcha.
She's so busy. I got my answer I needed. I posted what we needed on documentation. And there's another thing. You have these certifiers, these compliance reviewers, come in and say, oh, you don't have this, and you don't have this, and you don't have this. And my answer to these people when they're saying you don't have this, you don't have this, ask them to show you the rule.
Sure.
Okay, so one of the girls got dinged for not having outcome and goals and outcome in her paperwork. I said, it's not required. She says, you mean I don't have to track this? I said, no. As part of your regular ISP, your goals and outcome, you do not have to have a separate paper. I messaged Nyoka. She said, no, you don't need to. Some providers do because they want to see the charting, but is not required. But yet this person got cited for not having that paperwork in there.
And they didn't realize that
It is not necessary.
Right.
So I always
Yeah.
tell people from now on, print your rules, have your rules with your documentation, what you have to have in there,
Yeah.
and when they come in. There's actually, if you look at that list of rules, there's no rule in there that says we have to have an MUI and a UI chart, though I know we do have to have that. But it's not actually listed in the documentation.
And so, when they do our accreditation, if it's not in rule, we would say, hey, it's not in rule, and they've been, DoD has been great with that, and they'll look at it, and if they see that it's not, then they usually take away that citation.
Correct.
And
Right.
so I'm sure...
But you get new
and her-
providers that don't know to do that.
Yeah, and I'm sure if that provider had done that and then they looked at it again, that probably would have happened. But you're right, some providers would not know to do it, so it's good that you're telling them to have the rule in front
Yeah,
of
I
them.
said
Or
that,
ask, or ask, hey, can you please show me this?
yeah, and the
rule?
transportation rules
Yeah.
are
'Cause
really.
I don't think DoD is doing that on purpose. But
No,
they
I'm sure
might
they're
have-
not, but
they
sometimes.
might have the old
As
information
an
too.
interviewer, I feel this is important you have it, but just because I feel like it's important
Correct.
you have it,
That's what I mean.
does not mean it's in the rule
Correct.
that you have to have it.
Correct.
You might not feel this is important,
Right, yeah. Sure.
and it kind of depends on the provider. We do a lot with documentations on here and stuff. Let's see, I'm trying to read here. Someone's told this morning by their SSA that they have not received a new ruling for personal funds, and they were not going to do anything about it. Okay, I know the personal fund rules have been written. I know if you do not want to keep receipts, you can have a meeting with your SSA and have it wrote into your plan that you do not have to keep receipts, especially if you're an OSL provider. I mean, personally, I keep big receipts, like the batteries for my son's
Sure.
chairlift, $200. I keep that receipt. Number one, it's under warranty.
Right.
But I'm not going to keep a McDonald's receipt. And as long as it's in your ISP, you don't have to have it as a receipt. You don't have to.
Right.
So is
the
it,
ISP is what's important. What's in the ISP kind of dictates.
so
those
basically
things.
your personal fund tracking is pretty much just a checkbook register, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, they changed up some of the rules, and to be honest with you, the SSA department usually handles that stuff, and I don't know all the new things that they've changed with that. But you would ask, like you said, just in any case, ask your SSA. Here's the situation. They would then look into that. They could check the rule, check with their supervisor, check with their director, and see what can be done, if anything, about it, and just possibly put it in the ISP if they're allowed to. There's certain parts of rules that you have to do regardless,
Right.
and then you have to follow this. But
Well, as a fiduciary, I've always had to keep track because
Right.
I'm answerable to the court system.
sure,
So, but they still don't want. My court have never asked me for
McDonald's
receipts.
receipts.
Right, exactly.
Sure.
But that was the big fear way back when this started 2 years ago. They were rewriting all these rules,
Right.
and so they need to have something in their ISP about what they do need to keep track and what they don't need to keep track
Right.
of, basically.
Right. Yes.
So just have a team meeting and talk
Have a
about.
meeting and talk about it. What needs
I
to be done.
recently found out through NIOCA again that no, I'm sorry, not from NIOCA, from Medicaid. That in our ISP, when we take our client out of state on a vacation, we should have it put in the ISP that we are taking our client out of state for a vacation, and make sure we have a team meeting saying that we have all of our basically your ducks in a row, that you know what to do for an emergency, what pharmacy, whatever you're going to use.
Sure.
This is coming into play because it's snowbird season.
Right.
And how long? And so my question was, and I wrote. This is what I do. I wrote Maureen Corcoran, who is the director of
Jobs and Family Services.
Correct.
Right.
did not get a reply, and this is not unusual. I
Okay.
rarely get a reply from Medicaid,
Sure.
so I wrote the governor, and the governor, of course, doesn't like me. He passes it down.
Back to her.
So I got a phone call. I can't remember the lady's name offhand, but I got an hour phone call
Oh. Okay.
going over the rules of what we have to have
And
as
they
far as
said you
going
should.
out. And they did say this: if you're taking your client out of state, it could be for any length of time. As long as you have a team meeting, you have an emergency plan in place. You talk about the safety and the welfare of your client. And that's pretty much it. As
Sure.
long as it's an ISP.
Right. Then the ISP would continue no matter where you're at.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. So that was a big question. Can I provide services as out of
Makes
state?
sense.
Because we always say Medicaid is state by state by state
Right.
to the borders of the state. But can my client go out of state with their care? Yes, they can.
Right.
So that was a big question. We talked about the West. Okay. Something people my age, I hate to say, are thinking about. We think about the future. What are we going to do with a child?
Right.
Well, maybe I'll open a group home.
Uh-huh.
And that way, my son will have a place to go to. I know, I'm going to have a group home. Have you guys ever thought about doing some kind of classes like that on what it takes to open group homes?
So what do you mean? So tell me what you mean by group home. Do you mean an ICF? Or do
No,
you-
just like like a supported living home or something like that.
Yeah, it's the
There's not
same.
enough of those around.
It's the same as HPC. You have to be an HPC provider, so they don't.
I can't own the home and be an HBC provider in the home.
Right. So if you're talking about
Rules and regulations for it.
right, you're talking about owning the home and then
Yeah.
having staff come in.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
how do you do that? How tax ramifications, ownership ramifications, all the rules that go with that.
Yeah, I'm not even sure you can do that again without being so an ICF has their rules that you can do it. A group home, what you're describing, you'd have to be licensed through DODD, and you'd have to work through them to get licensed. We don't have any licensed group homes here anymore. We used to. We don't have any. So you would have to.
So
Work
I
through
have to
the
do all the
department.
research on my own. That's
You'd
what
have
I'm
to
saying.
work through the department to even become that a licensed residential.
Because I'm pushing 60.
Yeah.
So
So what you would like to own a home?
I thought about it. When you came up with this respite home thingy, I thought about, that's kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Because I used to own a rental property years
Yeah.
ago. I don't own it anymore, but I did have one. I thought maybe I should get back in the rental property type thing and get something where I can have.
So the licensed facilities that we had here in the past, the people that were in charge, they owned the home and provided services. So yeah, I'm not sure how that would work if you're saying you want to own it but not provide services. You see what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, but you can't own and provide services in it. You're not. That's a conflict of interest.
Right, but a
That's
licensed DODD home you could.
Oh.
You know, is what, again, that was the rules. We don't have any more here now, but in the
Okay,
past
I didn't know
you
that.
could. So I don't know if that has changed for a life, because we don't have any group homes.
Okay.
You see what I mean? The ones we have.
I know
here,
I've
so.
taken Eric to visit, and people that have been one of the guys from our church used to live in a supported living atmosphere, and we would go and they'd watch TV or whatever, visit, just like if
Right.
you come over my house, sit down and watch
Yeah.
TV for a while, you know.
Right, right.
And he enjoyed that. It was, you know, a nice. And I thought, wow, this is not that bad. If I needed Eric to go live someplace, this is the type of environment I wanted. There were 3 guys that lived there.
Yeah,
You know,
so those
the
are
caregiver-
HBC homes. Those are their homes, though. You see what I'm saying? That's how we don't call them group homes. Mental health calls homes group homes.
Okay.
Okay, we don't really call group homes, so we don't really use that term. You know, there's ICFs and then there's the person's home, and they happen to live with maybe 2 or 3 other people. You know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
well, their provider came in the morning, got them up for work, left for the day, came back home, got them dinner, made sure they were safe, put them to bed, and then she left, and they were on their own. So it was
Yeah,
really
and
a nice.
then
It was really a rather
and mental
nice setup.
health group homes. A lot of times there's somebody that just comes in, gives medication, maybe helps with meals or whatever, and it's not there all the time, or just checks in. People can come and go as they please. That's how mental health group homes are.
And see, I don't know whether Eric would ever be a candidate for something like that, though, because he has a colostomy.
Yeah, and I'm not
And that
sure
kinda,
he
you know.
would be either.
Yeah. Let's see. Someone told this morning, and I read that one about the personal funds rule. Let's see. I'm not sure why the standard is so hard to follow by all the counties.
Which standard is that?
Who knows? I think
I don't know either.
I think
I don't
one of the things. Okay, when I started doing this, I really got involved about 2 years ago. Thanks to Janet. Hi, Janet. She asked me to be an admin. I said, "Well, how much time will it take me?" You know, and I didn't realize I'm on the computer probably 6-7 hours a day with this stuff sometimes. One of the biggest issues were these providers were coming and say, "Well, they're telling me I can't get transportation. I have an IO waiver. I'm not allowed to have transportation. I'm not allowed to." I said, yeah, you are. Here's the rule. You need to take this rule to your caseworker." Most of the time, they got approved for it. But why don't, I hate to say, why don't all SSAs know the rules?
Well, I mean, so think of it. You know, we talked about experience and people knowing things and being here for a long time. If you have a brand new SSA, they don't come in and automatically know all the rules.
Do they have classes to update them when new rules come out?
They don't have classes, but the directors and the supervisors, train them on the new rules. But again, there's all these rules that they have to review and look through, and
they may never apply to their
clients. They might not
clients.
apply to their client, or they have to go in and review them. They don't. It depends on your memory. It depends on a lot of things about the rules. But then they have to go in there and look.
Whose job is it to know the rules? My answer was it's both.
Both.
Me as a mom.
Yeah, they have
I
to
need
say
to
if they
research.
don't know it, then they will go and research, or they will go and ask their SSA supervisor or director it. So yeah, if a family asks a question that the SSA doesn't know for sure the rule, they should then go look that rule up, and or talk to their supervisor and director to make sure they have it correctly. So yes, but. Again, is it your job as a family member or whatever to know the rules? No, but it'd be beneficial for you to know.
It's been very beneficial for me. Yeah.
Right.
My thing on this is an SSA maybe have 30 clients and none of these rules apply to them, and
Correct.
then boom, this rule comes into play.
That's why I said.
And they can't remember which client this rule might apply to, so they don't let the clients know because they don't know.
They're human, and you can't remember everything, and so you have to go back and look things up. I mean, that goes with everybody. That goes with me. Everybody has to do that. You don't remember every single
I mean, how many
rule.
times have I sent you rules?
Yeah, you sent me rules. How many times have I had to look up and say, you just mentioned about the personal funds. I know they changed it, but I don't know the rule back and forth, all the intricacies of it. And that's why I said that, to check with the SSA department. And again, if you're just starting as an SSA,
There's a lot to learn.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn.
You know.
Just trying the
I mean,
acronyms
so many
and everything.
diagnoses. I actually have a book with all the acronyms in it.
Yeah, well, we love our SSAs, we love our providers. None of them have an easy job. The SSAs don't, the supervisors don't, the directors don't, the providers don't, the families don't, the individuals don't. It's all difficult stuff, and it's a complicated system that we have, and so
I feel
sometimes the answer doesn't happen as quickly as we would like, because you have to look into all these things, and you have to explore and research and do your homework.
I feel as a provider, it's my duty to form a network.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you need to answer that?
No, it's okay.
Okay. And I have been lucky enough to form a big network of people I can contact.
Okay.
And when people ask me this question, I had some question last night, I can't remember what it was. I said, I don't know the answer, but if you email this person, they can help you. Right. And I do that by going to a lot of the conferences. I go down to Columbus quite a bit. I go to the conferences, and I meet people, and I Director Davis made me mad one time. So I emailed him, and he said he would like to meet with me.
Oh, okay.
So I went down, I met with him, and I met Nyoka and Debbie Hoffine, too,
Nice.
at the same time.
Nice.
And that's how my relation with them started, and I'm able to email Nyoka. I can actually go on my Facebook group and say, hey, Nyoka, are you on? And she will message me back, kind of what I did with Gary Todd. And that's the way you learn and you grow.
Right, and DODD has a difficult job too. I didn't even talk about that. It's not easy being them either. So they don't just have one county. It's not just Portage. They have 87 others. So they have to try to help 18 counties. And so that's a difficult challenge as well.
Yes, and when I've had difficulty with one county, I will let Columbus know, hey, this is the difficulty we're having in this county. And I hook them up with the providers that are having difficulty in that county, and they have reached out to that county. I will tell you, when I email Kimberly Hawk, I usually have an answer back within a day.
Nice.
She has answered me at midnight on Saturdays. She has answered me on Sundays.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So they're phenomenal. Medicaid, on the other hand, weeks, months maybe go by before I have an answer from Medicaid side.
Director Hawk, she came and visited us as well.
Yes,
She's like a very nice lady, and you can tell that she wants to help people just like we do here at Portage, and hopefully all the other.
And after I got her in our county, she visited all 88 counties. I don't know how many she's up to now, but she's trying.
Well, she had started when she visited you and us here. She had already started.
Yeah, she already started.
Yeah, she had
already. And so I had Director Davis signed up to come to that meeting.
Correct.
And I thought, oh crap, what am I going to do now?
Right.
But I said, well, she fulfilled this duty, and she said, yeah, I'll fulfill it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the good thing to keep in mind is sometimes we may not get to where we want, but everybody's goals should be, and I think they are for most part, for whether it's DODD, the family, the individuals, the providers, county boards. The goal is to have a better life for that person, and so I think everybody shares that same goal. And but sometimes it's frustrating because you see different routes to get to that goal, and it gets complicated because of our system. But everybody wants that person to have a better life, and so
person-centered planning.
Yeah, but again, it's got to be need driven, and that's because there's finances
not
attached
want driven.
to it.
Right.
Yeah, not want driven. It's hard sometimes to separate needs and wants, and they look a lot alike sometimes.
Well, they do. Yeah. Okay, so let's get to the questions that I blocked this question from my Facebook group because I got tired of seeing it every single day.
Okay, that's interesting.
When are we going to get a retention bonus? And can you tell us the process that has to go through the CMS? And I tell everybody, my county's already paid the bill. I know the money's sitting there somewhere.
Yeah. So just so as I told Becky, we already have the bill from DODD, and we have paid that bill already. So we know it's happening. It's just a matter of when. So it has to be a bill. So it has to be put in to law. So you have the election that just occurred. So you have the lame duck people in the Senate and the House. And so at this time of year, a lot of things get stagnant and don't get done because of the time of the year. I don't know exactly when, so I don't want to give anybody a date because I don't know.
Because then you'll hear every day?
Yeah, because again, I think when, at first we were looking at hopefully around July, August, we thought originally, and then it moved that into November, December, and now the last I heard is in January.
Yeah, people were hoping for Christmas money.
Yeah, and you're going to get 2 quarters worth. It's just a matter
Right.
of when. But
Now the second check, will that also, because it's taken so long, be a 2 quarters worth too?
it depends on when.
Because it was supposed to be.
It depends on when it finally
What
gets
was it? April, May, and
finalized.
June, and then June, July, and August all in one check.
Right.
But we were supposed
It depends on when it finally gets
It's
done,
done.
and then we get the direction from the department. They'll tell us when. So yeah, I guess that's my understanding. Is it's just, it may happen any time now that it gets put in, and sometimes it just gets done, and then we'll get an email saying, "Hey, it's done, and this is what's going to happen." But because it's not in rule, you have to add it to the rule, and anytime you have to add a rule and a law, it becomes challenging and difficult because you have to get through all the parties. So
is part of the problem that CMS, and we in Ohio think of us as our own entity, but CMS is actually over all 50 states. Is that correct?
yes, they
And so
are.
all 50 states
Yeah.
are currently having their own issues with everything
Right,
too. So
right. It is over all the states, so yes, they have to. But again, I think my understanding with this is not so much CMS; it's that it has to get through the House.
No.
And
Okay, see,
and
my
the
understanding was CMS
representative.
has signed off on the rules for it, and that's why agencies have not yet received their paperwork of how they have to proceed, because an agency has to opt in.
They
Where-
do have to opt in, but
whereas
until
we
it's
do not.
signed off on the rules, there won't be any opting in until it's done, until it's finalized in a rule. You can't have people opt in when the rule's not in place.
Okay, so they won't get any paperwork till all the rules
Not
are written.
until it's done.
Because I get asked that by agencies, I'm like, when are we going to find out about this?
Yeah, so I know it's frustrating. We apologize, and obviously DODD has done everything they can. OACB has done everything they can. It's just tied up. It's out of everybody's hands. But hopefully we'll hear something, coming up very soon as to when.
And I'm just scanning through here. That provider liaison, Barbara, that I was telling you about,
Yeah.
that's doing so much for her county, popped on. So, hey, Barbara, you should listen to what I said about you.
Well, that's nice.
The avenues to obtain camera system in a house. The client, OSL, has epilepsy and autism. What would be the reason for getting one? Safety? That they want to get cameras for their house because their child has seizures.
Well, I don't know if it depends on, again, it's based on need, it's based on the person.
Would
there-
that be a total? They'd be an assessment, correct?
Yeah, they would need to do assessment.
So would they
reach
do
out
an
to
assessment just with the SSA? Or they also do like something with a remote system type person?
Usually the SSA will reach out to the remote support vendors to do it. But again, there's other things that it doesn't have to be cameras. They have sensors. They have,
I have for my son, and I know somebody that has a watch for their daughter to
Yes.
let them know when
Yep.
they have seizures. I just got a fall alert for Eric, so I can
Right.
I
Right.
can go
There's-
out and mow the grass or whatever. If he
there's-
falls, I know he's falling.
Exactly. So, and sounds like based on what they're saying, there would be a need, but they just have to talk to their SSA and say, hey, here's the situation. How can we get this?
Janet did remind everybody, if you're watching this, you can documentate this and use this as a CEU under the new rules. The template is in the file.
No,
So, did you know that?
no, I didn't.
Yes.
Well-
Anything you do or watch now, or that will make you a better provider, or help you in your planning, or help you grow as a provider, can be, or for
Does
your
that
client.
even count when it comes to talking to me?
Sure, sure. We still got some donuts and coffee and check it. So yes, and there's a template in the file, and you just sign it and write down
What happened.
how it applies to your client, or how does it apply to your life.
Oh, okay.
One of the
And
examples.
then you send it to DODD, and then they have to.
You don't
approve?
send, no.
No?
It doesn't even need approval.
Oh,
You just
okay.
put it in your file, and then when you have your compliance review, and you have to show your 8 hours.
You would show that this was part of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
If you read the new rule, some of the examples in the new rule is my child is a diabetic. I can watch a diabetic
Sure.
cooking video
Sure.
and learn
That
how.
makes sense.
Okay. My child wants to become a yoga instructor. I can go take a yoga class and talk to the instructor and find out what steps does my child have to take to become an instructor. I mean, they were some
Nice.
oddball type things
Okay.
on the example, but it's in the rule.
Yeah.
So, and I have the rule if anybody needs it. It's in the file. But yeah, so any of my meetings that I do this,
Yeah.
I will actually upload this to YouTube later when I get a
And then
chance.
they'll do
And they can
CEUs off
download
of
it and they
that.
can watch it, and however many minutes it is, long it is, it counts with your continuing ed.
Well, I'm glad I'm helping people with their continuing ed.
Yeah, so there you go. And I think we start a little bit after 9, so,
Okay.
and we are at 10:43.
Oh, wow.
So
We
okay,
did
so
well.
I covered the retention bonus. Why is shared living? Why is shared living paid less than HPC rate, especially when said client is a 24/7 care with no alone time? Ooh, I like her question.
Well, again, yeah, so that was all established by the ODDP. So, and it's determined, again, that rule that hasn't been changed forever. I don't exactly know how it is. Shared living is supposed to be a cheaper option than HBC.
And to be a flow with the home,
Right,
like
and
keep
they
your
are
client in the
counting
home.
with then it's their home also. It's that they're living with that shared living provider, but it's more of a family type thing.
Setting.
So then I guess built into that is maybe thinking that there's some natural support with that.
Which once the child reaches 18,
Yeah.
they're not supposed to.
Right.
My son is.
But I
in
don't
his
know.
30s.
I don't know why the
My saying to this,
differences
my son's
are.
in his 30. I'm almost 60. My son should be taking care of me. And that's
Right.
one of my
Well,
life.
and some shared,
Yeah.
and I, some shared living situations, the person doesn't have to be with them, and yet they
Right.
get that same
Benefit.
amount. There's a benefit, and some others that, there's other situations where if they can't be alone, that's just based on that person's need.
Yeah,
So if that person can't be alone, they can't be
I
alone.
have a monitor on my phone so I can keep an eye on my kid when I'm not with
Oh,
him.
okay, yeah, yeah. So, but you know what I mean. So some people, if they didn't need somebody with them 24/7, and then a medical condition changes that, then you have to then it adjusts and it changes to that where they have to have the 24/7. So there's not a whole lot you can do about it again, unless in 2025, like you said, when Director Hawk is changing, looking at that rule, if they'll change the rates for shared living too, they might.
Well, we're hoping rates get changed within a year. We're fighting for rates to go
Sure.
up because, like I said earlier,
Yes.
McDonald's pays more than we get paid.
Right.
On an average, I know how shared living, if you're looking at 168 hours a week, you're looking at $4 an hour roughly we're getting paid.
Right.
And yep, sometimes we're sleeping, sometimes we're not, but like Eric's up 2 o'clock in the morning. I've caught him getting dressed for work at 3 o'clock in the morning. He's like, I don't think it's time for work, Eric, go back to bed.
Right.
But yeah, so that's what, and then here's a good example. He's going to my friend down in Southern Ohio for respite care. She's going to be doing exactly what I do for a week, okay? She's going to be making over $300 a day because she's HPC.
She's HBC. Yeah.
And that's where you get the disgruntlement of us who are, that do this, of our parents for our client that lives with us. And then this day she's with this person, they're going to triple what I get paid.
Yeah, I can understand.
Where's the fairness of that?
Yeah, again, you probably can, ask that question, and when they start having the hearings about why that is, I don't know what all went into it.
I mean,
Again, the system, again, it's not about finances, it's about need. But so for instance, people ask, well, why doesn't everybody have a waiver? Well, because if everybody had a waiver, the system would be broke.
Right.
And so shared living, part of what shared living was to do was to lower the cost. I'm sure that was a part of the thought process, was to lower the cost so that you're not spending so much, right?
I understand that,
Yeah.
but if I were to drop dead tomorrow, my son going to a
Correct.
nursing home,
I know.
he'd be getting $10,000 a month, easy,
He would.
in a nursing home.
Sure, yep.
Hopefully my daughter will step up,
Right.
but she's
right.
got 3 little kids right now.
And the same being if you like you, and hopefully your health remains great, and
I
no
hope so
problem.
too.
But the same being if you got sick or if you, like you said, pass. If he went to an HBC, it would be a different amount because they're considered different services and they're paid at different rates. I don't know what all transpired into how that all came about years ago, but that's what they are. But I certainly get frustration from providers like yourself that said, hey, he can go here and they're going to get triple the amount that I'm getting.
Oh, okay. Same lady, and she has kind of a decent point here. And if somebody gets shared living, if they have an HBC provider come in to do some of the hours under Appendix K,
Right. They get paid the HBC rate.
they get to pay the HBC pay. So what's the difference? Basically,
Yeah,
and that's why you were
it's
just
that
saying,
shared
yeah.
living HBC. They're considered different, and they're paid at those different rates. And until that changes, that's what would happen.
I had one more question for you, and it kind of left my mind. But we're getting close to your meeting with Michelle.
Okay.
It's 10:48.
Did Michelle tell you or no?
No, I just was
she
looking
didn't.
at the time.
Yeah,
I know you have an 11 o'clock meeting,
right,
so that is with Michelle. Let's see. then why can't we just bill out OSL? It's just the way it works, Tiffany. Sorry,
Yeah,
it's just the way it is right now.
It is the way it
We
is.
are
Until
fighting
that
it. We are,
until that
you know.
changes. That's how it'll be. So sometimes I think there's confusion with people, providers, families, everybody. Remember, the ODD is separate than county boards. So the ODD has the rules, and then we kind of enforce or follow those rules that they put in place, but we don't get to make those rules. You know what I mean? So,
And everybody is actually governed by Medicaid, right? Medicaid
so
rules.
the waivers are all Medicaid waivers.
Right, so
you
we're all under the Ohio
you have
revised
to
code.
follow the Medicaid necessity model that's in place for Medicaid. Correct.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of layers, a lot of people involved with this. So yeah.
I got a lot of people telling me to tell you thank you.
Oh, good. You're welcome. I'm glad everybody was able to join us.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
And let's see if I have anything. HPC comes in for
Hopefully
2 hours, and
hopefully
then
it was helpful with at least
no,
something.
no. Hey, Tiffany, that's wrong. If you have HP, that was my question. I remember that now. If HPC comes in for 2 hours, you still can bill for that day. As an Ohio Shared Living provider under the Appendix K,
Right.
we are able to bill for that day.
Correct.
So, say I have to go to the doctor's, and I get a hold of my caseworker, and I'm lucky enough to get somebody come in and take care of Eric while I'm at the doctor's. I still bill for that full day.
Yeah, just since Appendix K came out.
Right.
Prior to that,
Correct.
you couldn't, but
Right.
now you can. Right at this point.
Right. Okay. So recently, Gary Tonks posted that Medicaid is rewriting a rule, and you may not even know this. I might send it to you later.
Okay.
That they are going to approve people that are financially responsible for a client are able to be paid. I forget how he worded it. Are able to be their paid provider. I don't want to screw up this as I look
Okay.
up. I'll look it up. But anyways, it's because the Appendix K is coming to a close, and we have so many parents of minor children out there that are taking care of their minors, which is a good thing.
Right.
Excellent thing. They are rewriting a rule.
Okay.
And I'll send it to you later.
Sure.
I wish I had printed it.
That's okay.
But basically, if you're financially responsible, which parents are financially responsible for their minor children,
Sure.
they'll be able to be their paid provider.
Okay.
So that's going to do away with that minor child rule.
Right, that rule that had where just with Appendix K they were allowed to do a certain amount of
So they don't know
hours.
how it's going to look, whether you're still going to have to work through an agency or not.
So we still have some things.
There's still things they're working
work
on.
out.
But that's what they're working on right now. And
Yeah,
that's-
I had heard that was helpful for a lot of families, and they wanted to see
Oh.
if there was something they could do to keep some of that in place. So
Well,
sure.
even when my child was my daughter, who's not disabled, she fell at school, cracked her chin open. I had to leave work and go take her to the hospital. They threatened to let me go
Right.
back then. So I can't imagine, because my child got injured at age 19, I can't imagine what my life would have been had I had a disabled child in school and been working a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, and I worked for the government. I was a government employee, and I had FMLA.
Right.
But once that runs out, it runs out.
It runs out.
You know, and they can easily fire you, boom. It doesn't matter whether you're union or non-union. So I can't imagine the life these parents have had
Sure.
with minor children that have these issues.
Right.
I mean, I had to rush my child to the hospital, and they're threatening to fire me because I had to rush my,
Yeah, sure.
and that was before FMLA.
Right.
that
Yeah.
happened,
That's
and,
tough. That's why we know.
So that rule needs
all the
to be,
difficulties the families
So
have. Sure.
yeah, so many parents have to stay home with their
Yeah.
child.
Right. Well, again, like I said, parents' needs, the individual's needs, those are always should be the priority. And again, we may not always agree, but doesn't mean we're not on the same side. We are, and we've told people, we're like, listen, this is how we interpret the rule. We could be wrong, but this is how we interpret it. You interpret it this way, so go ahead and appeal it. And then if JFS, when they have that hearing, says, hey, we're wrong, we're like, great, we're sorry we were wrong. We weren't trying to be wrong. This is how we interpret it. Then fine. Then you get what the appeal request is. If they don't, then they don't. Then you reappeal and you do all that stuff.
And you're allowed 3 appeals?
Yeah, and we're not trying to be difficult or harsh or refuse services, but we have to interpret the rules the way we see them. And again, it may be different than what what Becky sees or what somebody else sees, and that's okay. And then you do that. We might even want to do what you ask, but
your hands are tied.
But whatever the rule says is what we're supposed to follow. So we can get in trouble if we bend those rules, especially if we know we're bending those rules. So we try to follow that.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense to people.
I hope so. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and let you go because it's 10:54 and Michelle will be coming on in 6 minutes.
Right, Becky, well, thank you for doing this. It was good talking to you and everybody that is listening.
Yeah, we got a lot of thank you.
Thank
it was
you.
great
Thanks
Q&A. Thanks for all the information. Super thanks, Becky. Thank you.
Awesome.
A whole bunch. Yeah,
Great.
61 comments from
Well,
our
that's
meetings.
good. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully, if you know that they might you might let me be on in the future, then, right?
I definitely. Or maybe we'll actually have you at my church.
There you go. Then you can do it at your church.
And it might be just you and I again.
Yeah, right.
Okay, for your information online, I will be working on uploading this to my YouTube channel and giving you an access code so you can share it with everybody out there in the world. All right, goodbye.